Let me ask you a question that might sting a little. Why is it that some people seem to manifest opportunities, wealth, and freedom almost effortlessly, while others grind, hustle, push harder and harder, only to stay stuck in the same place year after year? It doesn't make sense, does it? The ones who strain the most often advance the least, and the ones who move with ease often attract the most. Here's the paradox. The universe doesn't reward effort, it rewards alignment. You can spend your whole life chopping wood with a dull axe, working harder every single swing, sweating, bleeding, exhausting yourself, and still have less to show for it than the man who stopped, sharpened his blade, and struck with precision. Most people are exhausting themselves in the field of life with a dull frequency. They think manifestation is about wanting more, doing more, forcing more. But the truth is, the quantum field doesn't respond to what you do. It responds to what you are. So let me ask again, what if the reason your dreams haven't materialized isn't because you're broken, but because you've been sending the wrong signal into the field? What if the very chaos you're experiencing right now isn't proof that you've failed, but proof that the system is testing if your frequency is real? Because once you understand this paradox, once you learn how to tune your vibration first, you'll realize something life-changing. You don't need to push harder. You need to tune deeper, and when you do, reality has no choice but to respond. Imagine this story. Two lumberjacks walk into the forest at dawn. Both are strong, both determined, both ready to work. The first grips his axe and begins to swing immediately. Hour after hour, he slams his blade into the wood, sweat pouring, arms shaking, each swing harder than the last. By noon, he is exhausted, but the pile of chopped wood is small. The second lumberjack does something strange. He stops before he starts. He kneels, sharpens his blade, breathes, centers himself. Then, when he begins to swing, every strike is precise, clean, effective. By the end of the day, his pile towers high, while his friend, who worked harder, has almost nothing to show for it. Now here's the question, which lumberjack are you? Because most people are living their lives like the first, swinging wildly, exhausting themselves, running faster, pushing harder, but with a dull frequency. Their energy is scattered, their vibration incoherent, their state of being misaligned, and they wonder why reality doesn't change. In the quantum world, your mind and your heart are your axe. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every signal you broadcast, these are your strikes at the tree of reality. But if your axe is dull, if your thoughts are chaotic, your feelings are negative, your frequency is divided, then no matter how hard you swing, nothing shifts. You push and push, yet the tree stands firm. This is why some people hustle endlessly and stay broke. Why others diet, suffer and struggle, yet their body never changes. Why some pray for years and see no miracle. They're chopping with a dull axe. And here's the paradox. Sharpening the blade takes less time than swinging it dull. Tuning your frequency takes less energy than forcing outcomes. But most people are too impatient to pause, align, and sharpen. So they spend a lifetime exhausted, frustrated, and stuck. So what does it mean to sharpen your frequency? It means aligning thought and feeling before you act. It means tuning your internal state before you step into the external world. It means embodying the vibration of the result you want before it arrives. Think about it. The person who wants abundance but lives in fear of bills is swinging a dull axe. The person who wants love but carries bitterness in their heart is swinging a dull axe. The person who wants healing but identifies as sick is swinging a dull axe. No amount of action can compensate for a misaligned state. But the moment you sharpen, when your thoughts, electric, and feelings, magnetic, merge into coherence, you broadcast a signal so sharp, so precise, that reality bends. That's when opportunities appear, synchronicities align, and doors open without force. Neuroscience tells us that your brain is a prediction machine. It doesn't respond to reality, it responds to expectation. Whatever you consistently expect, it wires into habit. Meanwhile, your heart generates the largest electromagnetic field in your body, broadcasting signals measurable up to several feet away. So when your mind expects abundance and your heart feels gratitude as if it's already here, you've sharpened the axe. You've aligned electric with magnetic, intention with emotion, thought with being. That's coherence. And coherence cuts through reality like a sharpened blade. But most of us never sharpen. We wake up, check our phones, scroll, compare, worry, stress. We rush into action carrying yesterday's fear, society's noise, the body's cravings. And then we wonder why nothing changes. It's like showing up to a battlefield with a butter knife. You can swing all you want, but the blade won't cut. Here's the brutal truth. Action without alignment is wasted energy. Effort without coherence is noise. Movement without sharpening is just exhaustion dressed up as productivity. And if you've been stuck in cycles of trying harder, this is why. Let me ask you something right now. What's the last goal you worked hard for, really hard, only to see little or no results? Did you sharpen before you swung? Or were you like the first lumberjack, desperate to act, but carrying a dull blade of fear, doubt, and frustration? Be honest. Because awareness of the dullness is the first step to sharpening. So how do you sharpen your frequency? It's simpler than you think. 1. Stop. Before you act, pause. Refuse to move forward with a dull state. 2. Breathe. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. Calm the chaos in your nervous system. 3. Visualize, see the outcome as if it already happened. Picture it vividly, with clarity. 4. Feel. Step into the gratitude, the relief, the joy, as if it's real now. 5. Unite. Hold the thought and the feeling together until they merge. That's the sharpening. That's the moment your axe gleams. And once you're sharp, then you act. Then you swing, then you move forward, and the impact is undeniable. There's a reason elite athletes rehearse mentally before stepping on the field. Studies show that visualizing success lights up the same neural pathways as the real act. So when a runner imagines crossing the finish line in victory and feels the joy in advance, their body wires for that outcome. When they finally race, their axe is sharpened and their performance cuts reality with precision. Now imagine applying that to your finances, your relationships, your health. Imagine sharpening every day before acting. How much energy would you save? How much faster would you manifest? This is why sometimes your manifestations feel delayed. It's not because the universe is against you, it's because you're swinging dull. The field is waiting for you to sharpen. The moment you do, results accelerate. That's why some people struggle for years, and then suddenly, in one season, everything aligns. It wasn't chance, it was sharpening. But here's the trap. Even when people learn this, when they sharpen once, when they feel aligned for a moment, they often slip back. They sharpen in the morning, then dull themselves by noon with stress and negativity. They align for a day, then collapse for a week. They confuse a spark with a fire, and that inconsistency cancels their signal. That divided frequency keeps them stuck, because sharpening once isn't enough. You must hold the edge, sustain the alignment, prove to the universe that you can carry the vibration through the tests of matter. And that is the bigger problem, the reason most never see lasting change. So you've learned to sharpen your frequency before action. You've discovered the power of alignment, that moment when your thoughts and emotions lock into coherence, when your state feels magnetic, when you're certain the universe has heard your signal. But here's the brutal truth. Most people can't hold it. They sharpen once in the morning, then dull themselves by noon with stress, comparison, or doubt. They meditate for 20 minutes, then spend the rest of the day leaking energy through fear and gossip. They feel powerful in a workshop or after a video, but when real life shows up, When the bill arrives, when the text goes unanswered, when the headache hits, they collapse. And in that collapse, they send a second signal, the opposite of the first. Think of it this way: when you sharpen your frequency, you're telling the field, I am abundant, I am healed, I am loved, I am aligned. But when you lose it, when you slip into panic or frustration, you're telling the field, I am broke, I am sick, I am unworthy, I am scattered. So what does the universe do? It mirrors both. That's why life feels chaotic. That's why manifestations stall. That's why one day feels magical and the next feels like hell. It's not because the law doesn't work. It's because you're sending a double signal, and a double signal is the same as static. Static doesn't cut wood. Static doesn't reprogram reality. Static keeps you stuck. Imagine filling a bucket with water. You pour in day after day, effort after effort, but the bucket has holes. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. That's what inconsistency is. You sharpen, you pour in coherence, but then your leaks of doubt, anger, and fear drain it out. So you end up back where you started. And the tragedy is, you think the problem is with the law, or with God, or with your destiny. When the problem is simply that you never fixed the holes. Why is it so hard to stay sharp? Because your body is addicted to your old emotions. Fear, stress, frustration, they release familiar chemicals, and your nervous system craves them like a drug. So even when you align, your body pulls you back. Where's my daily dose of worry? Where's my hit of anger? Where's my fix of scarcity? That's why inconsistency feels inevitable. You're not just battling circumstances, you're battling biology. And unless you recondition your body to feel safe in new elevated emotions, it will drag you back to the old self every time. Here's what's happening on the quantum level. The algorithm of the universe is designed to verify. When you shift your frequency, it sends you a test. Can you hold it when matter pushes back? Most people fail. They react to the evidence of the old world instead of sustaining the signal of the new. And in failing, they reset the algorithm. So they sharpen, then dull, align, then collapse, broadcast, then cancel. And the system says, unverified, try again. This is why you feel stuck in loops. Not because you're broken, but because you haven't passed the consistency test. What does inconsistency cost you? Everything. The entrepreneur who sharpens in vision but dulls in panic when sales dip. The partner who aligns in love but collapses into jealousy at the first trigger. The patient who visualizes healing but identifies with sickness when symptoms flare. Each collapse resets progress. Each dull moment cancels the sharpness. Each leak drains the bucket. And over time, you begin to believe change is impossible. You say, this doesn't work. When in truth, you just never held the edge long enough for reality to bend. It's like the story of the miner who digs for gold. He works for years, tirelessly, breaking stone after stone. Finally, exhausted, he gives up, believing the mine is empty. But if he had dug just one more foot, he would have struck the richest vein. That's what inconsistency steals from you. Breakthroughs are often one step away, but because you couldn't sustain your signal, you walked away too soon. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, where in my life am I sending double signals? Where am I sharp in private, but dull in public? Where do I declare abundance, but act in scarcity? Where do I affirm healing, but live in fear? Be honest, because these contradictions are the very reason your reality hasn't shifted. This is perhaps the deepest wound, not that you failed, but that you almost succeeded. The glimpse of magic you once felt, that was real. The synchronicities you experienced, they weren't accidents. The brief moments when everything aligned, that was proof. But you couldn't hold it. You let the dullness creep back in, and the dream dissolved. That is the pain of inconsistency, the awareness that you've tasted truth, but you haven't lived it fully. So here's the real question. How do you fix the leaks? How do you stop sending double signals? How do you break free from the trap of inconsistency and hold your frequency until reality has no choice but to match it? Because once you do, the algorithm stops testing, the body stops resisting, and the field begins to respond with precision. And that's where we move next, into the definitive solution. Because the truth is, you don't need to sharpen harder. You need to sharpen longer. You need to sustain the edge until the universe bends. And once you master that, manifestation stops being a fleeting glimpse and becomes your way of life. So we've seen the problem. It's not that you can't align, it's that you can't stay aligned. It's not that you don't know how to sharpen your frequency, it's that you dull it again and again with fear, doubt, and distraction. And the cost of inconsistency is enormous. You're not failing because the universe is against you. You're failing because you haven't proven you can hold the vibration long enough for the algorithm to reprogram reality. So what's the solution? How do you stop leaking energy, stop sending double signals, stop collapsing under the test of matter? How do you sustain the edge until the wood splits, until the field responds, until the breakthrough is undeniable? The answer is both simple and demanding. You must embody the new frequency as your lifestyle, not as a temporary state. Let me illustrate this with a story. Two people walk past the same bagel stand. One sees the bagels, warm, fresh, abundant. The other sees only the line, long, crowded, annoying. One focuses on the prize, the other focuses on the obstacle. And here's the truth. Both are right, but only one walks away with the bagel. Life is like that. The quantum field offers you infinite bagels, abundance, health, love, freedom. But most people can't stop staring at the line. They say, it's too hard. It takes too long. It'll never happen. And every time they choose the line over the bagel, they dull their edge. Every time they focus on the obstacle instead of the outcome, they leak energy. But here's the shift. When you train yourself to see only the bagel, to hold the vision regardless of the line, you prove to the universe that your vibration is stable. And when it's stable, reality bends. There's a lesson from the Navy SEALs that fits perfectly here. In training, the ones who survive are not the strongest or the fastest. They're the ones who support others and accept support themselves. Manifestation is the same. It's not a solo sport. Your vibration is amplified or sabotaged by the field you surround yourself with. If you live among people who constantly complain, doubt, or spread fear, their energy will dull your edge. But if you create a circle of coherence, people who sharpen each other, who remind each other to stay aligned, you multiply your power. This is why collective intention experiments produce measurable effects. When multiple hearts and minds unite in coherence, the field doesn't just shift, it surges. So if you want to sustain your vibration, stop trying to do it alone. Find your field, build your circle, sharpen together. Nelson Mandela once said he learned leadership from his father, who always spoke last. Why? Because listening first revealed what was truly in the room before deciding how to act. In manifestation, this translates to listening to the field. Before reacting to chaos, pause. Before collapsing into fear, breathe. Listen, not with ears, but with awareness. Ask, what vibration is present? What vibration do I choose? That gap between reaction and response is where power lives. It's the space where you decide whether to dull or sustain your edge. There's another lesson, one that may sting. A man walks into a meeting with power, status, influence. He is served coffee in a ceramic cup. Months later, stripped of his title, he returns, and this time the coffee comes in a styrofoam cup. The lesson? The cup was never for him, it was for the position. In the quantum field, humility is the ceramic cup of coherence. When you inflate yourself with ego, thinking you deserve manifestation simply because you want it, your vibration dulls. When you embody gratitude, humility, and service, your vibration sharpens. Because the universe doesn't respond to arrogance. It responds to coherence, and coherence is rooted in humility. Now let's expose the silent killer of consistency, dopamine. Every scroll, every notification, every cheap hit of stimulation pulls your vibration out of coherence. You sharpen in meditation, but dull yourself instantly with distraction. You feel aligned in silence, but leak it through endless noise. This is why sustaining is so hard. Your nervous system is addicted to chaos, and until you reclaim control, until you choose depth over distraction, you will never hold the edge long enough for the algorithm to shift. So ask yourself, what cheap dopamine are you willing to sacrifice to live in sustained alignment? Because the cost of distraction is your destiny. So how do you do it? How do you hold the edge when everything tries to dull you? Here's a practice. 1. Daily sharpening. Each morning, before the world intrudes, sharpen your frequency. Visualize, feel, unite thought and emotion. 2. Micro-alignments. Throughout the day, pause for 30 seconds. Breathe, realign. Ask, what vibration am I sending now? 3. Collective circles. Surround yourself with people who sharpen you, not dull you. Share your vision, align together. 4. Humility and gratitude. Live as if every blessing is borrowed, every moment sacred. Gratitude is the most stabilizing frequency. 5. Dopamine detox. Cut distractions. Replace shallow hits with deep practices. Walks, journaling, silence. Do this, and your edge doesn't just stay sharp, it grows sharper with time. Let me close with this story. A man stands in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, rain lashes, lightning strikes. Everyone else runs for cover, panicked, screaming, but he remains still. Not because the storm is gone, but because he refuses to let it define him. Minutes later, the storm passes. He is dry, calm, untouched. That's what it means to sustain the edge, not to escape the storm, but to embody a state so sharp, so coherent, that the storm bends around you. This is the solution. Stop sharpening once and collapsing after. Stop sending double signals. Stop letting your body and the world dull your edge. Instead, sharpen daily, sustain constantly, embody permanently. Because the universe doesn't reward sparks. It rewards flames. It doesn't respond to what you do once. It responds to what you are always. And when you embody alignment as your lifestyle, not a temporary state, the algorithm has no choice. Reality bends. The bagel is yours, the breakthrough is inevitable, and your life becomes living proof that the field was never broken. You were simply out of tune. Tune in. Stay sharp, hold the edge, and watch as reality sharpens itself to meet you. There's a story I once heard about a violin. In the hands of a beginner, it squeaks and scratches. The same violin in the hands of a master sings so beautifully it can move an entire audience to tears. The instrument never changed. The difference was the consistency, the discipline, the devotion of the one who played it. Your life is that violin. The quantum field is waiting for you to master your frequency, to stop scratching in frustration, and start sustaining a melody that reality cannot resist. And here's the truth. The universe has never been against you. The chaos wasn't proof of failure. The obstacles weren't punishment. They were the tuning process. The algorithm was simply asking, are you ready to hold the note? Because when you do, when you stop collapsing, when you embody the new self not for a moment but for a lifetime, that's when reality sings back to you. And in that moment, you realize something that changes everything. You were never broken. You were only out of tune. If this message resonated with you, don't let it be just another video you watch and forget. This is your test. This is the algorithm asking, will you act as your new self or slip back into the old one? Right now, you can lock in this vibration with action. Hit like to signal your alignment. Drop a comment and declare, I choose to stay sharp, because when you write it, you program it into the field. And subscribe with the bell on, because every time you return here, you'll be sharpening your frequency, surrounding yourself with a circle that sustains coherence. This isn't just content, this is the training ground for your soul. Pass the test, prove to the algorithm that you're ready, and together we'll rewrite reality.